If a giant-size X-Men #1 can get a 9.9 with a color-breaking spine tick, then my books can too, right? Hey there, today I have a CGC unboxing, and in this video I'm going to unbox 15 comic books that I sent to CGC for professional grading that I also sent through the Palm Beach presser. I had all of these books, a nice assortment of books, 15 in total from around the Copper Age, and sent them to Palm Beach presser for his assessing of the books, pressing. He provides grader notes and his estimated grade. He does some grade predictions as far as what he thinks CGC is going to assign to the book with their final grade. And this is a process that has really been working for me, working very well over this past year. Just awesome communication, excellent results, and also really great turnaround times. Door to door, this submission took about a month, and that was from me packing the books, sending them to Palm Beach presser, who's located in Florida, having him work on my books, and then forward them on to CGC, and finally CGC grading the books and sending them back to me. This is a pretty big order for me, 15 comics. I would typically not send an order this big unless I was doing a 25 book 9.8 pre-screen from back in the day, but I really try and focus in on maybe the 12 to 16 book space. That seems to be a really nice set of books where I can get that nice turnaround time from Palm Beach presser. Anything less than 25 books, you're going to get that single shipment back from CGC where your order isn't split up. And also the way that I ship the books out to Palm Beach presser, I use a very specific kind of Gemini box that's specifically sized appropriately for comics, and it holds roughly about 15 or 16 comic books. So really that's kind of the sweet spot for me. It depends on timing, what books I have available, how much do I want to spend, but really I kind of, a 12 to 16 range is typical of what my submissions are now. So I want to get to the unboxing, show you the 15 books, like I mentioned, all around the Copper Age that I submitted. I did not check the grades beforehand, so you will see the grades right before I do. I will go through the Palm Beach presser's grader notes and let you know what he saw with the book, and then also his predicted grade. So again, going from my amateur screen grade to his predicted grade all the way through the final grade with CGC. So let's get this unboxed so I can show you which 15 books I submitted to CGC. All right, here we go. The first book in no particular order is Iron Man #120. This is from 1979. I love this Iron Man book featuring Submariner on the front. Submariner and Iron Man. To me, it's always been kind of an interesting pairing between these two, but they've had a lot of history in the Marvel Universe, and love that Submariner's here featured on the cover of this issue of Iron Man. Iron Man is my favorite series, trying to collect every issue and getting as many of the high-grade copies of Iron Man graded. And this one, to me, I had originally assessed this book as a 9.0. Now, I typically don't send books that I screen as a 9.0 to get pressed and graded unless there's significant value, in a 9.2 or 9.4. It's certainly kind of a minor key in terms of being an Iron Man collector, but it's a number of grades to jump to get to a 9.8. Now, originally a 9.0 is what I assessed the book. The Palm Beach presser gave this book a potential grade of 9.6. He noted 2 small color-breaking ticks and a small printer tear at the bottom edge. That's really it. He didn't put like 9.8 likely or possible, just straight 9.6 is what he gave it. I originally had it a 9.0. And as always, I'm looking for grade improvements. That's the goal for me. 9.8s are always welcome, of course. But as long as I'm getting the grade improvement, the way that I work my analysis, I've already factored in the risk, and if it doesn't get a 9.8, then it's still worth my while to go through this process. Now, I've been holding this book a long time, covering the grade. My arms are kind of getting tired now, so I'd like to reveal the grade and not do this for each book, but I just wanted to kind of set that up as that analysis kind of applies to all of the books. Finally, here is the grade reveal. Iron Man 120 from 1979. It got a 9.8. Very cool. I love this book. First appearance of Justin Hammer. I forgot to mention that. So that's also cool. Justin Hammer being a character, he made his debut in the MCU in Iron Man 2. But this is really great. Love it. Bob Layton on cover art. He draws my Iron Man. He's the Iron Man that I grew up with in terms of art and storytelling. This is really great. It's just awesome. Fantastic work. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser, on this one. And like I said, I'd give it a 9.0. The corners on this one look super sharp. Wow, this is also white pages. The back is super bright white. So a 9.8 white pages on Iron Man 120. That's a tremendous start. I will pick up the pace, I promise. So here we go with the next one. G.I. Joe and the Transformers #1 from 1987. This is a book that I frequently picked up from Mile High Comics. I believe I also got a copy from Infinity Comics, but with the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover movie rumored to kick off at some point in terms of the production, this is something that, might be speculated on or collected on even more than it already has been. This was also a series that I read as a kid. Loved this crossover when I first heard about it as a G.I. Joe comic book and Transformers comic book and toy fan, cartoon, all of that. I did promise that I would pick up the pace, so here I go. I apologize. Just with the announcement of the crossover, I couldn't believe it in the comics, and this was a series I read, digested, studied over and over and over. And here it is, G.I. Joe Transformers #1 from 1987. I had originally assessed this book as a 9.2. Palm Beach Presser said there is a spine tick with a texture change and weakness at the center spine. That means, as I've become educated, is that it's possible that reversion could occur just because there is weakness in the spine. There's like only so much pressing that can occur on the book. And for this one, he put a 9.6 plus. So 9.6 most likely, but could get a 9.8. Let's see if this one did get that bump. And it did. 9.8 white pages on this one. The cover on this one, super bright white. And yes, I do see the weakness in the spine that he's talking about. But again, looking for just sort of trends as far as like when there is a spine tick or two that is allowed. The other corners are super sharp. The edges are sharp. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for. Same thing, the back cover looks flat, smooth, crisp, sharp all around. Great work, Palm Beach Presser. 9.8 on this one. Takes me back to 1987 when this book came out, and I picked it up right off of the spinner rack. So a lot of great nostalgia and memories for me there. Next one, we have Amazing Spider-Man 315. This is from 1989. This is a very controversial book for me. If you go back and watch my interview with Kevin757, he specifically noted that this is Venom's first cover appearance. And I had to educate him and let him know that it was not. That a severed floating head does not count as a first cover appearance. He was really sad and disappointed to find out that he was wrong, just completely wrong, that it's Amazing Spider-Man 316 is the first cover appearance. But kind of a tribute to him, in his honor, I decided to send my copy of ASM 315 from 1989 in. I had assessed this book as a 9.4. The only note that Palm Beach Presser gave on this one is a 9.8 is possible. He didn't provide any other grader notes. So to me, again, I'm sort of reading between the lines here. What he's saying is it should get a 9.8. Anything is possible. It could be downgraded. But from his point of view, the book looks nice and is a 9.8 candidate after he was done with it. So originally a 9.4. Amazing Spider-Man 315 gets a 9.8. Well done. Great work. This one's for you, Kevin757. The first non-appearance of Venom on the cover, but awesome, great Todd McFarlane cover art here. Kind of a weird goal of mine, too, is to maybe get every Todd McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man slabbed. I have all the big books already. The next one for me is 316. But really awesome to add 315 to my collection in a 9.8. All right, looking pretty good so far. I don't know if I got the right grader this time. I'm always skeptical, and again, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to look at these books, and what I will say is that these books do have defects, color breaking defects, and still a 9.8 was allowed. I still remember that really awful submission where books in very similar conditions were downgraded to 9 to 8.5. A lot of 9.6s that I thought were 9.8. So I just want that consistency. And we'll move on to the next book, Amazing Spider-Man 303. Speaking of great Todd McFarlane books and trying to collect all of these, here we have 303. This is from 1988. I gave this book a 9.2 and thought it could be improved. I sent it to the Palm Beach presser, and I'm looking at his notes. He has this one as a 9.6 with the note that there's a small chip at the bottom spine on the back. Yep, and I can see that just, it breaks color, it's just that small chip on the back. I'm hoping that something on the back cover that doesn't detract from the front appearance, so maybe this will work out in my favor here. But still, nevertheless, he gave this a 9.6, and it ended up grading as a 9.8. So either I'm right, CGC's right, Palm Beach Presser's wrong, or he's right and CGC's wrong. I don't know. But a 9.8 white pages on ASM 303, Sandman, Silver Sable appearance, and just thinking about sort of those really cool like subsets of books that you can collect. Just kind of picturing all of those ASM Todd McFarlane issues. I believe it was ASM 298 through 328, where it would just be really awesome to have all of those visible and graded. And what's nice too, these were so popular that these are easy to find. It doesn't really take a lot of digging to find these. Certainly, it's hard to find any books in high grade and keep them in high grade, but these are great books to find for not a lot of money that are still collectible and desirable, as it's certainly Amazing Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane, nostalgia, Copper Age, all of that fun stuff. So, all right, 4 for 4 so far with now 2 great McFarlane ASM 9.8s in my collection. The next one is another Amazing Spider-Man. This is Amazing Spider-Man 256. This is from 1984. This is the newsstand edition. It is designated as such on the label, as CGC has been doing this now for the last, I think, couple of years. Whereas before, they were not really calling out the newsstand variants. So regardless of how you feel about direct versus newsstand, I do like that it's actually designated on the label now. ASM 256, the first appearance of Puma. I had assessed this book as a 9.0. I thought it had a number of pressable defects and wanted to send it the Palm Beach presser's way. And I'm looking at his notes. He noted 2 tiny spine ticks with faint color breaks, 9.6 plus. I'm thinking of just the way things are going. I don't want to jinx myself, but 9.6 plus, super conservative grading. Is this also going to get a 9.8, or will CGC kind of correct on this one and give it a 9.6? Let's see. Amazing Spider-Man 256. Neither. 9.4. Okay. Well, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. This book looks very similar in terms of condition to the other ones. The only thing I will note is on the back, the top corner here is quite rounded and also breaks color. And then just what I noticed too, on the top edge of the book, there is just some, I don't want to call it wrinkling, but just light chipping that breaks color. So I feel like the corners sometimes are really what ends up bringing down the grade, or maybe the majority of graders fixate on the corners more than the spine. The other thing too, in the bottom back corner, it looks like there is a dog ear that it's tough because this is almost like cream colored down here, but I can see the dog ear, and I'm thinking with the corner issue and the dog ear, then yeah, this makes sense to be a 9.4. To me, it's still an awesome book. This is, again, right as the time that I started collecting and reading Amazing Spider-Man back in the early 80s. We have the first appearance of Puma and Black Cat and Rose appearance. But I knew I would jinx myself as soon as I start talking about this specific order, trends, anything that I'm kind of seeing and I try and predict what's going to happen, and you get the surprising 9.4 on that one. However, still, just to remain consistent, I had noted that that book was a 9.0. It did get a grade improvement, so I'm very happy to always get my books back with an improved grade. So yes, it didn't get the 9.8, but I'm also happy to get the improvement. Next one, Amazing Spider-Man 256. I just talked about this, but this is the direct edition. First appearance of Puma, released in 1984. Now, this direct edition, Palm Beach Presser said, very light corner wear, 9.8 possible. I had originally assessed this copy as a 9.4, so I'm hoping to get a grade bump up from this one, up from the 9.4. So let's see if it got a 9.6 or a 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 256, the direct edition, gets the 9.8. You know, I don't care about newsstands anyway, so I'll just replace that just like that with the direct, and there we go. It's like it never happened. No, of course, I love a good newsstand copy. It's hard for me to say because I'm a direct edition collector. I understand the collectability, the rarity in many cases of a newsstand copy. I'm just trying to have fun with it. I'm also just trying to forget that my newsstand got a 9.4. It looks a lot better just seeing the 9.8. Anyway, moving on, we have Alpha Flight number 33 from 1986. I have always loved this book. Cover art by Mike Mignola, and the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike. Lady Deathstrike has been a villain in X-Men pretty much since 1986 showing up. She was in the original X-Men animated series, and for some reason always been a little fascinated with her as a character. And I had held on to this copy of Alpha Flight for a long time, where I had marked it needing a press, and for some reason didn't want to press it myself, and then I stopped pressing and I just held on to it, and finally decided to send it in with this batch off to the Palm Beach Presser to get it pressed once and for all. Now, I had originally assessed this book as a 9.4 needing a press. Palm Beach Presser did not provide any grader notes on this one. He said 9.8 likely. So let's see how likely. We have Alpha Flight 33 from 1986 getting the 9.8. Awesome. Glad I held on to this copy, and definitely feel like I'd assessed it correctly. I'd held on to it, marked it as a 9.4. I would come across it and was just wondering to myself, should I try and press it? And this was several years ago and just never did. Really glad I waited and found Palm Beach Presser and sent it to him instead. On the label, Yuriko Oyama becomes Lady Deathstrike, X-Men appearance. And just a great Mike Mignola cover here, especially got Magneto in his alternate costume with the giant M. Love this one. Alpha Flight 33 getting the 9.8. All right, almost halfway done. Next one is Uncanny XMen number 157 from 1982. Now, when I was buying X-Men off the spinner rack and in comic shops, you know, I have missed the Dark Phoenix saga. I mean, I'm wearing the first appearance of Jean Grey as Phoenix in the awesome X-Men 101. And to me, this one was almost like my way of being able to collect Phoenix. So this cover and this book kind of mean a lot to me, but it's not really a key per se within the X-Men lore. Just a really fun, great issue of X-Men, but also very common and easy to find. This is from 1982. I had assessed this book as a 9.2. Palm Beach Presser noted light wear at spine corners with small bindery tear at bottom. And I do see that. I see that on the corner. So let's see if the grader was harsh on this one because of the corner. His predicted grade is 9.6 plus. And let's see the grade for Uncanny X-Men 157. There it is, 9.8. It's just awesome. And there it is. It's Phoenix, but she's dead. Surely you know that a Phoenix dies only to be reborn again. So this book was a 9.4, and thanks to the Palm Beach Presser, was reborn again, but this time as a 9.8. Kind of stretching it a little bit there, but Dave Cockrum on cover art, internal art here, as he came back with his sort of second tour of duty on X-Men after John Byrne departed. And man, just what an all-star run of illustrators that were on this book, from Cockrum, Byrne, Paul Smith. Just crazy. Starjammers, Deathbird, and Brood appearance on this issue of X-Men number 157. Love that. All right. Moving on, we have Spectacular Spider-Man number 99. Now, this one became popular when the Spider-Verse sequel, the animated feature, came out. Spot was speculated on as making an appearance, and everybody loved the first and second Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales. And this is just a fun, awesome cover of Spider-Man kind of getting beat up by Spot. And looking at my original assessment, I had graded this as a 9.2. Palm Beach Presser, he had provided these notes: light spine ticks on the back cover, light spine corner wear, unusual extra paper at the bottom left corner. Yeah, I can see that. Just like a little bit of overlap. That is strange. He noted it's just probably a bad manufacturing cut. So he said 9.6. He used a 9.6 with a tilde, which again, I think what he's saying is probably a 9.6, could be a 9.8, but almost, I think the tilde is more like it should be a 9.8, but it's going to get a 9.6, so keep your expectations set appropriately. And let's check it out. Spectacular Spider-Man 99 gets a 9.8. Very cool. Tough cover. You've got a lot going on in terms of the blacks, the yellows, and Strange also, it gets the 9.8 with that sort of extra paper. And it's one of those things where if you see the book out kind of in the wild, you have online stores like Mile High Comics or folks like Infinity Comics doing an auction, and you're trying to assess the grade, you're not going to really list it even probably as near mint, mainly because of that manufacturing issue. But yet here we are. That's really not the only thing that I see with the book, but it definitely stands out. It's the main issue with it. And CGC just said it's manufacturing, it's additional paper. In a way, maybe the grade was assigned to the book because the book wasn't cut. I mean, if I were to cut that piece, then we definitely see the color breaks down there next to the corner in both spots near that corner box. I don't know, from a presentation standpoint, it's not a 9.8 to me, but I understand that it's not just about presentation, it's about overall condition, and the book looks very sharp otherwise. The back looks great. I mean, it is super smooth, crisp. Spine looks flawless, so it really is just that one spot, pun intended, down there at the bottom. But I'll take it. Spectacular Spider-Man number 99 getting the 9.8. Next, we have Wolverine number 24. This is from 1990. This is a book that I frequently find, and I'd assess the book in a 9.4. Palm Beach Presser says 9.6 plus. It's going to hopefully get at least a 9.6, but let's see the final grade for Wolverine number 24. I really love this cover personally. Cover art is by Jim Lee. But I think before Jim Lee really becomes known for the X-Men, he has a small handful of Wolverine covers and other X characters. Really like collecting those. I will take it. This is from 1990, Wolverine number 24 getting the 9.8. Okay, next one, Wolverine 23 from 1990. This one is cover art by John Byrne. This is just a cool green and black Wolverine cover. I wouldn't put it in like a top tier A-list of Wolverine books or Wolverine covers. I have my favorites. There's something about this one, though, that I really like and then I slightly don't like, and that's what kind of intrigues me. It's almost like the hand and the claws are just almost like too perfect, almost like it was drawn with a ruler. I don't really know how to describe it, but as I said, I kind of like it and don't like it at the same time. But what I do like is that there was some upside in this book in a 9.8. This is from 1990. I had originally assessed the book as a 9.4. Palm Beach Presser did not provide any notes other than 9.8 likely. And let's see, Wolverine 23, and it got a 9.8. Yeah, and the more I look at the cover, maybe part of it too is his claws look short, so they almost look like what did Deadpool call it in the trailer? Like steak knives, something like that. I really like Wolverine depicted with like longer claws for some reason, or even claws that kind of curve out with his arm, and everything just looks a little bit too straight and too short. And I mean, I can't draw this, so I'm being like ultra nitpicky. I understand that. But like I said, the upside on this one in a 9.8 is up there because of the all black cover, the dark ink dominating the book, and just making it very difficult to get in high grade. So thank you, Palm Beach Presser, for your work on this one, getting the 9.8 on Wolverine number 23. So kind of nice set, Wolverine 23 and 24 there, back-to-back 9.8s. Next is Web of Spider-Man number 8. This is from 1985. This is Charles Vest's cover. He did the cover of Web of Spider-Man number 1, and then kind of off and on some other covers, also bounced around. I think he did a cover of Amazing Spider-Man. So somebody that has a little bit of a following, and almost like kind of wish that they had contributed more comic art in a way. But I've always loved this upside down black costume symbiote Web of Spider-Man cover. This was from 1985. I'd assessed the book at a 9.4, and Palm Beach Presser gave some notes. He said, tiny bindery tear at the bottom, but it should still be a 9.8 or 9.8 possible, to be exact. I see it's just ever so small. The back cover on the corner, it's just lifting up off of the corner just slightly, which it is certainly a bindery tear, but nevertheless, that was the defect that he called out. But he did say 9.8 possible, and let's check it out. Web of Spider-Man number 8, getting the 9.8. Oh man, okay, so this has been quite the submission. I think for me, except for that newsstand, which, I mean, again, are we really counting newsstands at all? But the 9.4 there, obviously, they've all been 9.8s. And it's certainly, like, as I reveal these, I'm excited. I'm also relieved. Part of my relief is really that I'm gaining confidence back in my ability to assess the right books. It's not assessing books that are 9.8 candidates. It's assessing the books that I feel like a trained and skilled professional presser like Palm Beach Presser can work on and be able to get the defects out that I see in order to elevate the grade. And again, what I do with my evaluations is I make sure that if I stick to my philosophy of trying to get a grade bump, if it doesn't get the 9.8, am I still adding value? And in all of these cases, I am, so that when I get the 9.8, it's almost like gravy on top. I try not to submit books where it's 9.8 or bust. I really try to avoid that. And if you watch my other like raw book unboxings where I reveal the spreadsheet analysis and kind of my decision engine as far as what I want to do with the book and decide, all of that's factored in. So even if there's, let's say, a 9.8 that's valued at $100, if the 9.6 has no or little value and maybe I paid $40 or $50 for that book, I don't send it for pressing, I don't send it for grading, because I've already invested in the book raw. I really try to find books that have value across the board. And if you look at some of these books too, like if these were all 9.6s, they would have some value, some collectability, just not at the level of a 9.8, I understand. But that's kind of my philosophy and the way that I approach it. And so I'm just really fortunate so far to get the grades that I did. Hopefully we end strong with 4 books to go. The next one is Vanguard Illustrated number 2. I laugh because I think I've sent 5 of these to Palm Beach Presser, and he's done amazing work on these, so I'm sure he probably saw this and went, seriously, another one? This is from 1984, Pacific Comics. Dave Stevens, cover art. The Dave Stevens phenomenon, it's very interesting over the last, I'd say, 6 to 12 months. A lot of his books have continued to grow in value, almost absurdly, in my opinion, the way that the comic book market has been correcting itself and prices, activity, attention on some of these books. For the most part, all of the books that I have revealed so far, it's not like any of them are super rare. They can all be found, and they've all taken a hit in terms of their value over the last couple of years. But the Dave Stevens books have continued to hold in value, which is great. So I love this one. I consider this one to be sort of entry level, although they're really, I don't think there's really such a thing as entry-level Dave Stevens anymore, but I would say it's probably that first tier of books that if you are trying to collect all of his covers or just collect any Dave Stevens books, this is one that I would recommend being on the lookout for to pick up. So Vanguard Illustrated #2, I had assessed this one as a 9.2. Palm Beach Presser noted that there is a tiny corner crease line at the bottom right corner. So after I reveal the grade, I'll take a look at that. His predicted grade is 9.6/9.8. So I think he's saying either way. Originally a 9.2. Let's see if it did get the grade bump. And it did, 9.8. There's something about this book, Palm Beach Presser, where I continue to find it and pick it up. First appearance of the Stargrazers. I don't think people are collecting this for the Stargrazers. I think they're collecting it for the yellow cover art by Dave Stevens, which is super awesome. So great work once again, Palm Beach Presser. I'm looking for that line that you're talking about. Yeah, I definitely see it. It's so tiny, and maybe that's what they did, is they just gave it a pass because it's super sharp. The spine is just immaculate, sharp all around. But yeah, I do see it. It's like the tiniest of dog ear flaps that broke color. It almost looks like it blends in with the art, and maybe that's why we got away with it. I'm sure that the graders are zooming in on this art, this cover art in particular. Great work, Palm Beach Presser, to get another copy of Vanguard Illustrated #2 in a 9.8. Next is Crisis on Infinite Earths #7 from 1985. I remember winning this book at auction. I feel like someday I should have all of the Crisis books graded. This is probably the more famous and collectible of all the Crisis books, particularly because of this great George Perez cover that's often homaged. And looking at the grader notes, Palm Beach Presser noted a bindery tear at the bottom spine corner, light wear at the top spine corner. I'd originally assessed this book at a 9.4, and he gave it a 9.6. Nothing else, no asterisks, tildes, plus signs, or anything likely or probable or possible. Just a straight 9.6. So let's see if it did get the bump from a 9.4 to a 9.6, and it went all the way up to 9.8. So I'm trying to look at the corner does have the bindery tear, and I think they're letting that go. It almost just looks like just extra paper around there in the bottom corner, but book looks really crisp, and all the other corners look super sharp. Edges are sharp all around. So this is great. This is just such an issue, a comic that if you're a DC fan, a Crisis fan, and even if you're not, you know this book. So it's awesome to get this one in a 9.8 white pages. All right. Very, very pleased so far. We have 2 more to go. Uncanny XMen #161 from 1982. This is a book that I pick up often and really don't spend a lot of money to get it. It's the origin of Magneto. And this starts a run of like the issue numbers, I want to say in the late 150s, probably all the way through to the point where maybe Mark Silvestri takes over. The issues are very common, very easy to find. As an X-Men fan, I still like these. I still buy these. I'm still trying to get a 9.8 collection of all of these books. And these are the books that are fun for me to collect, where they're just not super rare. I can get them minimal investment. And then I just sort of play the upgrade game, where this was a book that I got off of eBay a long time ago, and it had crazy mold all over the back. And I just threw it away as soon as I got it. And then washed my hands. And ever since, I've just been like, okay, I'll just buy raw copies. And this was a copy that I thought was in super high grade, and thought that with Palm Beach Presser getting to work on it, that it would have a shot to get a 9.8. Now, he noticed this one had a faint tick at the center spine as well in this one. So let's see. He also predicted 9.6 plus. My original grade was 9.4. So again, kind of the same situation. I have it as a 9.4. He's saying 9.6. Let's see if it got the grade bump to 9.6. And it went just like the Crisis book all the way up to 9.8. So I can finally stop buying this one. And that's kind of what my process is to continue to collect and upgrade to try and end up with the highest grade possible. This is going to go right into my run of Uncanny XMen in a 9.8. 9.8 white pages, origin of Magneto. 9.8 white pages, origin of Magneto, right here on the label. Once again, Dave Cockrum on interior and cover art. with Chris Claremont on story. And I love doing this all day long. It doesn't bother me in the slightest that those books are considered common and easy to find. These are the books that I collected as a kid, or maybe just missed out on as a kid. That was another thing, was that these books were in back issue bins, and they might have been like $5. And to me, that was like a month's worth of allowance just to get that one comic. And so it's really nice to be able to go back and fill in my collection with some of these. All right, last but not least, Amazing Spider-Man 265. This is from 1985. I have badmouthed my poor 9.4 newsstand, ASM 256, and so now I feel like I've jinxed myself, but I do feel pretty confident in this one. I had given this a 9.2. Palm Beach Presser did not provide any grader notes on this one. He said 9.8 probable. This is the first appearance of Silver Sable. That was a character that showed up a lot when I was first reading Spider-Man comics. I was a big collector of Web of Spider-Man, along with Spectacular and Amazing, and she was a prominent sort of side character in many of those issues. And I ended up buying an already slabbed 9.6 direct copy before this one came along, and I got this at auction, I think, for a pretty good price. And when I evaluated the scans, I also thought that this had a chance at getting a grade bump. So here we go. ASM 265, the newsstand edition, first appearance of Silver Sable, getting the 9.8. Wow. Just, I'm kind of stunned. The Palm Beach Presser does great work, and I do trust him with these books. Clearly you can see the results. But really just stunned because of my last couple of submissions, particularly the one a couple of submissions ago, like I've talked about, where I got like an 8.0, a 9.0, a 9.2. And that kind of submission, it really kind of rocked my confidence and made me wonder if I should even stop doing this and just keep my books raw. I didn't know what CGC was doing. And this really just, again, there's a lot of relief here, but it makes me feel good. It makes me feel confident in the process that I've spent years developing, and I love seeing it pay off in this regard. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser, for your great work here. You've really allowed me to take books that have been sitting in my collection. I still think of that Alpha Flight 33 that sat for years, where I knew it was a book that just needed a professional touch. And, with it being a title that starts with A, as I'm going through my back issues, I'm typically going through them in alphabetical order, and I'll always come across my chunk of Alpha Flight books, and I would see that Alpha Flight 33, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And it was always a book that I felt like I wanted something done with it, didn't know what to do. And these are the kind of books that, I'm really happy to have somebody that I work with and trust. And again, also just happy that I'm sticking with the process, that I didn't give up after that submission. So this was fantastic. 14 out of 15 9.8s. Obviously not a pre-screen, because I got the 9.4 on the ASM 256 newsstand. And although CGC seems to be handing out 9.9s, I even saw Wolverine 10 to certain people, I'm very appreciative and grateful that I got 9.8s sent back to me, just your everyday kind of comic book collector. I'm not an auction house, I'm not a dealer getting those 9.9s and 10s. I'm super happy, super pleased with these 9.8s. Really happy about the process. Very pleased to continue to work with Palm Beach Presser, and appreciate you hanging out for the whole submission. Thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.